all they can worry about is whether or not they have to give a minute's silence to the Queen. But speaking of the Queen, Warren, what did she mean to you, and what does the monarchy mean to you?
That's interesting because, as I've said in a lot of times that I'm actually a Republican. I like to see a elected president of Australian citizen and that. But at the same time, I think Joe Hildebrand called it, I'm a lazy Republican because I don't want to get up and fight for it. Yeah, I like to have it, but I don't want to fight for it. But but a lot of Aboriginal, in fact, quite a lot of Aboriginals are actually monarchists. You only have to look at the former Senator Neville Bonner. And this is the other thing I can't get about the AFL. Back in the 1930s, Sir Doug Nicholls, he played football for Fitzroy, and he was the first Aboriginal to play for the Big V, Victoria. And he was a monarchist still. He ended up being governor of South Australia in the late 1970s and that. So what do they say? Who are these Aboriginal people who actually get triggered by the Queen? And the Queen to me was the only monarch I knew up until King Charles III last week. Was an amazing person who served this country well and served the British Commonwealth. And also they talk about her as the Queen represents colonisation. This is another thing they don't understand about history. She came on the throne in 1952. It was the end of the British Empire. It was the end of colonisation, and so she was there, spent most of her time travelling around Africa and the world, lowering the British flag and raising the flag of independent countries. So she became the Queen of decolonisation. So I wish people would actually learn that history and get the facts right. Indeed.
And just quickly before you go, we've only got 30 seconds left, but sad news this week. Uncle Jack Charles died this week. The renowned Indigenous actor, like you, came from very difficult circumstances. What legacy does he leave, Warren?
Look, he's the example that we should be looking at. He came from very, very difficult circumstances, a really tough life, and yet he was able to achieve and get over that and become one of Australia's most loved and revered actors. And he was, I never heard a bad word about him. And yet, when you look at his life, if you saw a person who had an excuse to do nothing and just to get in trouble with the law and then go to jail for the rest of his life, he was that person. But he got over it, he moved forward, and he learned. And it was funny, when you listen to his story, it was actually a white person who challenged him about that life, and that was the thing that stirred him on to be that successful and most loved person.